I'm Darian Slayton Fleming, and thank you for joining me on Get What You Need and Feel Good About It. Do you find it difficult to ask for what you need? Do you frequently feel misunderstood? Do you have a problem or cause that you would like to learn to manage more effectively? What makes it so hard for us to tell each other how we feel? And how do we speak up for ourselves so we get what we need and feel good about it? How do we do this respectfully so that we honor the needs and feelings of others? Together, we'll explore tips, strategies, and resources that, when used mindfully and consistently, will improve our results and enrich our relationships. Hello, and welcome back to Get What You Need and Feel Good About It. My name's Darian Slayton Fleming, and I am your host. Today we are joined by Edward Cohen, who is an entrepreneur with a visual impairment who has created a calendar that can help us stay on track with our goals, get what we need and feel good about it. Welcome, Edward.
Well, thank you, Darian. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, my low vision is due to RP. In 2015, after struggling with products that sounded like and said they were low vision, I realized they weren't working for me. So you can look at the notes that Darian has provided for a little more of the story. But my website can be reached as follows. The URL is E as in elephant, Z as in zebra, the numeral 2, the letter C as in cat, products, products.com. And that's EZ2C products.
Thank you. And this episode begins a series of episodes on how to use documentation to get what you need and accomplish your goals. And I thought it would be interesting to start with how to use a schedule to remain organized and make sure we get to our appointments. And we know that documentation involves much more than that, but a schedule can be a starting point. So, Edward, tell us what led you to create this calendar.
I'm an older guy. I grew up during the days when all you had was print. And starting, I guess, in elementary school, had to keep track of schedules and when projects were due. And then all the way through high school and college and in my careers, I was responsible for meeting deadlines and also making sure that other people that either I worked with or I was assigned to help met their deadlines. So I had to keep track of it. And I ended up with a weekly style planner. So in other words, the left and right page, when you laid it flat, showed the entire week. And back then I could use a ballpoint pen and just scribble away and write tiny. But once I retired in 2010, I was legally blind in 1995. So I had a good 15 years legally blind while still working. And was at that point I was doing computer work, like it seems so many of us did. But then after retiring, I kept using the products that said they were large print. And yeah, they were a little bit bigger than the Dayminder or the Mead or the Franklin Planner, those things. But pretty soon, as my vision declined, it was not possible to see the tiny lines. The numbers weren't that big. I was using a bold marker to make the numbers big. And I decided at one point it was not that hard to make something that I could actually use. And some of the careers I've had allowed me to make one calendar for myself. And I did. and I incorporated all the features that as a low vision person I knew I needed, but apparently those who made the other products didn't know. And then I would take this product with me to meetings with other blind, low vision people, and they would say, "Where did you get it?" And I'd have to explain the story. And they said, "Well, you ought to start making them so lots of people can use them," because they said they would buy one or knew someone who said who they thought would as well. I produced the first version in 2015, and every year I've been making them and adding new products that to help low vision folks stay organized since then.
So it occurs to me that a calendar typically is where you can make notations on a date, including times. Or doesn't a calendar include space to write additional notes if you want to, or in your case, at least provide enough space to write as big as you need to be able to read it? What else can you do on the calendar besides notate the date and time on your calendar?
Oh, well, you're right. In this case, size matters. Each page is 8.5 by 11, so it's 8.5 inches wide. And on the left side, there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So each one of those daily cells is as wide as the page. So now you're talking almost 8.5 inches wide. And they're each a little over 3 inches tall. And if you do the math, that amount of area is equal to almost two 3x5 cards. Those who are used to working with those knows 3x5 card, that's a fair amount of space. As for what you can put on it with that much space, even if you're using a bold marker, not only is it meet with Bob on that day at 4:30, but I can also put Bob's phone number in case I need to call him. Reminders, make sure you take the plans with you. If it's go to Target on a certain day, you can put the shopping list down there. It's as limited as your imagination. And then you have a permanent record. You can go back and not only say, well, I met with Bob on this date, but here's his phone number or his address or any of the information that you thought you should have then. Now you have it for the rest of that year as long as you keep that calendar. And by the way, I keep my old calendars and I haven't been known to go back and search for something that otherwise would have been lost forever.
And we are talking about using a schedule, but we're also talking about documentation because I feel very strongly that documentation can be the difference between whether you get a need met or not. If you also include on your calendar or in your documentation somewhere who you spoke with and what a summary of the meeting or who promised what, then even if they didn't document and you did, you have some leverage. I remember canceling something about signing up for a server or something, and they kept charging me. But I had written down the date and who I spoke to and what the outcome was. And so when I discovered the unauthorized charges, I was able to call back and get that charge removed and refunded. Edward, you were talking about other ways that you document and that the calendar is just the beginning. So how else would you use this calendar to prompt yourself about your other documentation?
Well, those are all important points. When I was able, and I'd be in the meeting with, let's keep talking to Bob, I might take notes on uh, who's going to do what. Did I agree to do something or did he agree? And I'd write it right down. So as you've just said, I'd have a record. And in this case, it was just a reminder. So uh, at the next opportunity, I'd be able to transfer that information to another document, which is a bit more permanent. I keep on my computer folders for all of my projects and all of my contacts. And in that folder for that organization or contact, there are documents where I log all the interactions. So rather than just a few scratchy notes that, Bob to send map, just making a step on the fly, in my notes, it would say, Bob agreed to make a map, and in the map, he agreed to put the following information, which I would not have room for in the calendar. And I agreed to do the following. So creating documents in folders with names that I can easily pull up in the search is an extremely important way that I do further documentation. And the issue you mentioned, I have a removable hard drive, and every Sunday I plug that into the computer and I use a transfer software, and it updates or uploads everything that's been changed or new or removed that past week. And then I unplug it so it's safe. And I also use an online service that uploads it to the cloud. So I've got two backups if I need it. And there have been times that I needed it because either I'd mess up or the computer would burp or something. So documentation is the next step beyond just scheduling.
When we were talking offline, we were discussing this question. Do you solely use your calendar to stay on track, or do you use other method? Clearly, there are going to be other tools and other strategies that will need to be matched up with using a schedule in order to help us stay connected to our projects and stay on track. And this is just the top layer of the onion, the schedule, but it's essential.
One of the other layers in my onion is sitting off to my left on top of my desk, and that's the A lady. Every time I enter an upcoming event or a reminder into the print calendar, I also tell her. And that way, um, if I can't read my writing, what I've told her, she reads back generally pretty accurately. And also, I can do that each day. I can say, hey, lady, what's on my schedule today? And there have been times where I have told her something that I failed to write down, maybe in the heat of the moment of something getting scheduled. So I also use the A lady as uh, an additional layer of reminders to avoid missing something.
Very good point. And it might prevent people like me from double booking if I had that as a cross check method. So, is there any other information you can share about how to use your calendar as a method of holding yourself or other service providers accountable?
It depends on how much you've put into it. Like I said, after an event, and I had a meeting this morning, and there was something that both I need to do and to remind the person I met with to do. So when I got home and sat down at my computer, I put it down there, and I create a document all by itself. It's obviously it's in a folder, a personal folder, and it's my to-do list. And I use that. I'm into and out of it multiple times a day. In the morning to remind me what's the highest priority because those things are at the top of the list. When I do them, I delete them, which doesn't give you the same satisfaction years ago when you draw a line through them on a piece of paper. But I know they're gone. Having a my to-do list serves a multitude of purposes. Plus, it can also be a documentation. I've got one item in there. It's not just contact so and so. It's the content that will be in the email that I sent them. So I've already got that written out in the heat of the moment when I knew exactly what I wanted to say. And so that my to-do list is helps me in a variety of ways. And there's stuff down at the bottom that I'll get to eventually. And it just reminds me, oh yeah, you still wanted to do that. So my to-do list is also a key part of my way of staying organized.
Do you ever get suggestions for improving your calendar tool or creating other helpful tools?
Oh, absolutely. Some I'm able to do, and some I'm not. Not to be too big ahead, but many of the suggestions I've already thought of, and either they're not practical or economical. Some people who cannot look at a white piece of paper because it's uncomfortably bright. So they were hoping that I would be able to make them in a wheat colored paper or something off-white. And I said, absolutely, I can do that. Can you promise that I can sell 1,000 of them?
Hmm.
And the reason I say that is if I make one or two at a time, the printer will charge me $100 each. But if I make 1,000 of them, he might charge $5 or something less than 100. So some of them are just economically impractical. But in terms of products, within 2 years after starting to make the annual year calendar, January to December, although actually I go December to the following January to give a little more usability to it. Teachers were contacting me uh, and asking, do you make an academic year version? In other words, one that runs from the beginning of the spring semester or fall semester all the way through to the summer and beginning of the next year.
Hmm.
And I thought, yes, I would love to do that because up to this point, my annual calendar is basically only being bought by adults, or in other words, helping adults. And the reason I got into this is it was my way of giving back to the low vision community, and I wanted to help as many as I could. So the 2 years ago, we did a 23-24 year, and I think we sold 70 of them after printing a couple of hundred. So we lost our shirt on that, but I still wanted to do it. This year we've done a 24-25, and we've already sold 120 or so. So it's encouraging that people are finding it. And that's been wonderful to see happen. And post-it notes were something that we all use or used to use, but they didn't work for me because when I'd write on them, I'd write off the edge of the paper or I'd stick them somewhere and couldn't tell where they were. So I now make post-it notes with a black edge, just like the calendar has a black edge. And most recently, very recently, within the last couple of weeks, we've been starting to get inquiries, do you make a wall calendar? And the initial response, well, years ago, I didn't want to do that because there are so many of them already being made. Many are just given away. But enough people decided that they'd like to see if we could make one that was easy to see as well. So we are looking seriously at designing one that uh, would feature the sort of accessibility features that I know I need, which means a whole lot of other low vision people would need. So the ideas are great coming in.
Tell us about some of the other products that you produce that help low vision people stay organized or access their documentation.
We know that you can't use a Sharpie when you write on a piece of paper and you plan to use the reverse side of that paper because Sharpies bleed through. There were companies that made pens and markers that do not bleed through, but sadly, two of those companies are no longer making them. The 2020 pens no longer made. Some companies still have some supply and they'll run out. And the Bold Writer 40, which made it even a bolder mark, it's also no longer made. And so there's some supplies being sold. So 2 years ago, we decided we need to step in because a pen that doesn't bleed is critical to using my calendar and other products. So we now make our own line of easy to see pen and easy to see bold marker. And they're becoming very popular, partly because there's not a lot of alternatives. And I'm just thrilled to have stepped forward to solve that critical shortage that, when the 2020 discontinued, there was a lot of people moaning and groaning, and I was one of them. I have another product that is something that I've dreamed up over a number of years because I needed it. but I fear that it won't work for every person with low vision. They would have to be a high partial. I have found at events, primarily the people buy it are middle-aged women, and I attribute that because they know the importance it is to staying organized. It's an unusual product to manage contacts, but even more than that, and it would take too long to describe it here. But if you go to my website, there's a full description. And we recently had a person named Carrie on accessibility create a YouTube video where she goes through it and describes it and offers her comments. We all have things around us that we treasure or need, but sometimes we don't need them but once a year or even less frequently. And human nature being what it is, we forget where we put them. I was once handy and I try to still be so. And I needed a tool that I know I have, but for the life of me, I could not find it. And I spent half a day looking for it. And as I sat on the steps, racking my brain, if I just had a place that I could write down, where is it? I would write on it, torque wrench, basement, wooden cabinet, bottom shelf in the very back. And I thought, if it's if that's my problem, I'll bet a lot of people have problems. Maybe you get a treasured item from a dearly departed relative that gave you, and you'd like to find it. Well, I'm sure you have set it somewhere safe and forgotten where you put it. So if you had a page that was, where is it? You could put it there. And then I started thinking, what about all those things that we need to remember, but you can't remember them all? And I thought, well, then if I had a page that I could keep track of all the stuff related to the push button locks that I use in various places. And I kept coming up with more and more things that this would help me. This would help me. I don't drive, but I have a car. My wife drives. And there's all kinds of information you need to keep track about that, or bicycles, and then I started thinking, well, how could this be managed and kept? And it just kept growing and growing until I said, I think I've got a product, a problem where no product exists. And that's where I came up with this idea of the easy to see organizer and address book. And I think it's fabulous. My vision has declined to the point that because it's only half the size, it's only 8.5 wide. I'm sorry, 8.5 tall and what is it? 8.5 by 5.5 wide, 5.5 wide. It's not big enough for me to see. And that's probably why the people with good vision or high partials are buying it. And just like the academic calendar, sales double from one year to the next because people are finding it. And uh, my wife she uses one of the page where she keeps passwords.
Hmm.
And so it's rather than sticky notes or randomly writing them down various places, they're all in one place and she can't lose them. The binding system is unlike what most people have ever seen. It easily allows you to move pages around. And it has alphabetic index, A through Z, little tab sheets for separating things so you can find it fast. Anyway, I could go on and on. It's kind of maybe my final print product project, but I think a lot of people could find it useful.
It seems to me it could almost augment an inventory for insurance. If we have homeowners insurance or renters insurance, often it's a good idea to keep an inventory of all of our valuables. And you might be able to have that supplement your inventory so that you know where everything could have been found.
Sure, sure. And you can create a, page just like that inventory, file it under I. They say video, take a video of all your
Right.
stuff. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, it's as I wanted to make something in a way that it could be personalized exactly to each person's needs.
Well, you are an innovative person, almost a little bit of an inventor. So you are meeting needs based on your own need, that if you need it and you're a low vision user, it's pretty likely that someone else is going to benefit from the product. So where can people order your products?
Well, they can Google Amazon, and we are on Amazon. So if you just type in easy to see products, it'll come up there. On our website, there is a list of retailers, or you can just call us up. Our phone number for placing orders is 800 234 8291. I can repeat that, 800 234 8291. And some very nice people will answer your questions and work with you. They can, of course, take credit card orders or various other ways. You can send them an email at info, I-N-F-O, at preventproducts.com. And without getting too businessy, Prevent Products is my distributor. Before I had them, we were mailing everything out and dealing with sales tax and dealing with all that stuff. Now they take care of all of that for me. So I have a half of my life back.
Wonderful. Edward, can you tell us a story or two about how your products have improved the quality of life for your users?
One is not everyone who buys one of my calendars is low vision. I have learned that there are fully sighted people. Again, it's women because they know the importance of staying organized, and they're managing their own schedule, their kids' schedule, and their parents' schedule. So it's the family calendar, and it sits open on the kitchen counter, and they use different colored pens so they can keep track quickly of what's going on there. The other one that I get a kick out of, and all of these are mentioned in the testimonial page on my website. The couple, I don't know who it is, I think it's the daughter. She visits her mother in the nursing home frequently, and she goes with her family and the kids, and they go and have a great time. But every time they would go back, the mother would mournfully complain that they never come out to see her, even though they're out there two, three, four times a month. So with this calendar, when they're there, they open it up to that day. And throughout the day or as they're leaving, they write down what they did, where they went, what game they played, and so on. And then the next time they show up and the mother complains to them again, they open up the calendar, flip to the last week or 2 weeks ago, and read the list of all that they did on that day, and everybody gets a laugh out of it. So I just thought that was wonderful. Um, and,
That
and
is wonderful. That it's a way to refer back and also regenerate those memories.
and like you said, it's also sort of a documentation.
Right. Well, Edward, I want to thank you for being here with us today. I know you have offered us a couple of quotes that symbolize what being organized and what staying on track means to you. Could you share those quotes with us?
Of course. Well, I do consider myself sort of a creative guy, a problem solver. I was also quite handy as well. But as vision loss has creeped in more, it's become harder to do many of those things. But I'm not willing to just sit in a rocking chair. So the quote, if you want to call it that, that I come up with, I want to do as much as I can for as long as I can, as well as I can. And that last part usually means coming up with alternative methods to accomplish the same end goal. I do a lot on the computer and I do a lot on the phone. And often the simplest things just are so difficult. They shouldn't be that difficult. And I'll bet a lot of people can feel the same way. So my quote to keep me from pounding on the keyboard is, why do simple things have to be so difficult? And that's usually what I say after I hang up or I finally get through fussing with a website or something, a form. So those are the two that come to mind.
Thank you so much for all of your insights and your innovative ideas about products that can help us all be accountable to ourselves and stay organized. And on the note of staying organized, I will just remind you all that we will be back again in December. Edward, thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the podcast realm.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I've enjoyed it, and I hope it has helped to some of your listeners.
Stay well, everyone. Take care. Thank you for joining me today on Get What You Need and Feel Good About It. Remember, when you speak up for yourself assertively, you will get what you need and feel good about it. You will also be showing respect for yourself and for the other people in your life who are important to you. Until next time, try thinking about it like Stephanie LaHart says it. Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. Before it gets